Today I'm going to talk a little bit about Nagura. There are different types of Nagura, but three main categories. One is Nagura from Aichi Prefecture. We call it Mikawa Nagura. Secondly, there is Tomonagura, which are made from a base stone. Tomo means matching. And then there is the diamond Nagura, the use of a diamond plate, preferably worn out and mellow, for raising a slurry. The idea of a Nagura, the concept is a stone capable of raising a slurry on a harder stone. The name Nagura actually is a person. His name was Sakon Nagura. He was a samurai, and in his travels he discovered or met someone who discovered and took advantage of the mining area near Mikawa, where Aichi Nagura is from. The area, if you look on a map and drew a line between Shizuoka and Nagoya, the mine area where Nagura was from, Aichi Nagura, would be right about in the middle, in the mountain areas there. Of course, there are all different grades of Nagura. This happens to be a very pure piece here. This would be appropriate for sword polishing. This here is a piece of Nagura from Kyushu. It's called Tsushima Nagura. It's usually dark colored, sometimes black. It's very muddy. There's not a whole lot of grit in it, and it's really more what I call a mudstone. This is a piece of natural mined Nagura from Fukui Prefecture, which is the prefecture just to the north of Kyoto. This would be a commercial size Nagura used in a knife shop where they do a lot of work. This stone here could be a candidate for, cutting up into, actually I wouldn't do that. This would be a candidate for cutting up into making a Nagura or a group of Tomonagura type stones. It's got a deep chip here that'll never heal. You could get a few good pieces of Nagura out here. There's a big hole there that probably continues down into the stone to some degree. So the important thing is, if you're going to make your own Nagura, is that you begin with a good quality stone that has grit integrity. This is an example of a stone that would not make a very good piece of Tomonagura. It's got a lot of inclusions. Those inclusions are filled with iron particles, chert, and other abrasive toxic materials. So this is something you want to stay away from. This stone here is one that I use in my shop. It's a softer stone, Akapin strata stone. Instead of cutting grooves, I have a radius here so that the stone can rock on the base stone and it doesn't create any suction. This stone here would be a good candidate. Even though it's broken, there's still some surface area there, and it would be nice to make a slurry using this stone. It's a green, it's an asagi. Not overly soft, but relatively soft. Here is a piece of kiita, more of a yellow colored stone. These generally are softer. This would be an easy stone to use to raise a slurry on an asagi stone. And then if you have overly hard stones, like many of you do, you might want to have a harder gray type stone. This is a Tomoe. There are some inclusions in this, but those could be worked around. It's a good sized stone, you can see. If you have a tomoe like this, some type of asagi or tomoe stone, this would be a good match. If you're beginning with a softer host stone, something like this, you can see the yellow. This is a kiita itself. So obviously you need a softer Tomonagura to help raise the slurry. I'm really interested in the diamond plate as another form of Nagura. A friend of mine coined the phrase diamond Nagura. And when you use a diamond plate to raise a slurry, basically you're creating a slurry paste made 100% out of the host stone. No matter if it's an asagi or a kiita, some hard tomoe, it doesn't really matter. But the slurry will be comprised of a pure form of the host stone. Most of your nicer sharpening stones are expensive. And I know there's some concern that this is like going to wear it down prematurely. Well, I've lapped a lot of stones, and 5 minutes with a worn out diamond plate would maybe remove 2 microns. A fresher diamond plate would remove 2 microns maybe in a minute. But the amount of friction that we're creating with a diamond plate over a period of time, it's minuscule. I don't know if you have tried to lap a hard stone, but it takes time. And I'm thinking to use a diamond plate to lap or raise a slurry every once in a while on a stone like this. It might shorten the life of this stone a few years, but out of 20 or 30 years, that's not such a big deal. Here's a box of Nagura, and these are a lot of uchigomori pieces in here. These are used by sword polishers. With these type stones, they don't sharpen the blade. They're really just polishing the different elements of the blade. They make them real thin like this. This is a piece of uchigomori. It can be thinned down. Here's a piece of Nagura here. This is Aichi Nagura. This could be thinned down even more, and they back it with rice paper, lacquered with urushi. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to make a Tomonagura the way that I do it. It's a pretty simple process, and it doesn't take very long. You want to start with, as I mentioned, a piece of stone that has good integrity, few inclusions, and more or less pure. The first step is to create a flat surface on the front, or the face. For that I use this Atama plate. Spend a few seconds, get down into fresh stone. Then I do the edges, the sides, and the ends at a 45 degree. This bevel helps prevent breakout of loose grit particles that will contaminate your slurry. There's the two sides. Do the ends. And the sides. And the end faces. And you end up with a nice looking stone here, that has easy to use, comfortable. You can do these back edges and go all around the stone. It's even good to get at these corners a little bit. Round off all the corners. Okay, the next step is to put a groove right down the center. The center groove helps relieve suction when you're using the stone to raise a slurry. The easiest way I found to do this is you take a regular hacksaw and make one groove right down the center, about 1/16 of an inch deep. I'll rinse this off, and you can see we've created a groove right down the center. Now the edges are parallel from the blade and the corners are sharp, so we want to remove those sharp edges and create an edge that actually has more of an open profile. The way I do it is on my Atma plate. It's got nice sharp edges and the grit matrix goes all the way to the edge. I put the groove right on the corner of my stone. You can feel it engage. And at a 45-degree angle, I just widen and chamfer the edge on both sides. Okay. That's what it ends up looking like. An Asagi Tomonagura like this would be appropriate for use on a stone similar to this. This is a Tomoe stone. A Tomonagura like this easily raises a slurry. If you used a lighter colored stone, go back to this Kiita, even though I haven't chamfered the edges. You have a little bit softer slurry. If you went to a harder slurry stone, something like this, you do run the risk of scratching your base stone. So the idea is to carefully match up your slurry stone with your base stone. With the Aichi Nagura, it's essentially the same idea. These stones are quite a bit softer. The grit particles are not as sharp or as aggressive cutting as the Tomonagura, but a lot of people favor these stones for raising a slurry, and they'll even have a sequence of different Nagura stones, Aichi Nagura stones, to build up different slurries. Here's how I use Diamond Nagura. There again, it's pretty worn out. There's really no grit right there. Raise a slight slurry. And this slurry is made up of, like I said, the base stone. It's a fantastic kind of slurry to use for razors or fine edge tools.